Okay, so welcome to kind of episode 1 of All Access Pass. I want to share with you a quick story about today. So long story short, I'm transitioning. Can I speak? Transitioning my kids to daycare, and it has been, it's pressing, God has been speaking to me. He's saying, look, just because something is hard, it doesn't mean that it's, a reason to give up. Some things you've got to learn to press through, and that builds endurance. But, when God says stop, you stop. But let's say just because it's like you're finding a minor inconvenience or it's challenging or testing, if God's given you the grace to do a thing, then he's like, go ahead, you can do it in me. I'm the strength that you need to get through this situation. So anyway, I encountered a circumstance in which the old me probably me like a couple of months ago, or me definitely 5 years ago, it would have ignited a very different response. So let's say, I'm talking about giving the Holy Spirit full access. So in this circumstance, when I received the news that I heard, normally I would have gone kind of spiraled, I would have spiraled into a panic, because even if I would have felt the Holy Spirit in me just saying, hey, just chill, just be calm, rest in me, I would not allow myself to tap into that rest. I would not allow myself to tap into that peace. I wouldn't think that I was allowed to be at peace, because I'm like, if I rest in his peace, it indicates that I don't care about the situation. I have to panic. I would actually work myself up and be like, I have to panic to show that I care, to show that I'm worried, to prove to people that I'm a good mom, to prove to people that I'm this, that, and whatever. So I would actually, instead of stirring myself up in the Lord, I would stir myself into a panic. So I just thank God in this situation that he's like, honestly, he's been taking me through a process of just freeing me and delivering me from all of that panic, stress, being controlling, all of that mess, and more, and then some. So he's been clearing out my house. So he was showing me about the residue, the residual stuff, the graffiti on the wall in some of the rooms that he's cleared the squatters out from, right? The squatters I was talking about in the intro video to this whole series called All Access Pass. So I was like, old me was kind of the residue on the walls of that room were like, oh, you have to panic. Shouldn't you panic? But because the Holy Spirit had actually said, look, you need to invite me in. So I actually went through a process of saying, Holy Spirit, you know what? I invite you to every portion and every corner of my life. The hidden corners, the hidden portions of my life that perhaps, that perhaps I hadn't given you access to knowingly and unknowingly, and the ones that I've been locking to you, because let's say I don't want to deal with all that stuff. I don't want to actually deal with that mess. So subconsciously, I'm locking you out of these rooms that you're supposed to have full access to. So, I went through that process. I told him, look, you've got full access. Just deal with me and grace me and help me to give you full access. Help me to unlock those doors in my heart that you can actually go and clean up the mess, the residue that the enemy had left in there when his minions were driven out, or those evil or those, unhelpful and harmful ways of thinking and operating were driven out. Whatever way you want to think about it, it's pretty much just shifting from harmful ways of operating to beneficial and righteous and righteously fruitful ways of operating. So in this moment where I received this news, and the old me, the graffiti on the wall says, panic, panic, panic. You need to panic, you need to stress, you need to cry, you need to call somebody and be in a hysteria to prove that you care. But I just felt the Holy Spirit say yeah. He's like, can you just wait? He's like, that you don't actually have to fill this space with something. You can just let this be. And it was almost like he was asking me, will you invite me into this room? Will you invite me into this room that you had formerly filled with panic and stress and anxiety? And will you invite me in instead of trying to fill it up with what you previously knew and what you had previously partnered with? Why don't this is an opportunity for you to unlock that door and welcome me into this space so I can clean up this mess, so I can clean up the walls, so I can wash them with my grace, wash them with my peace, wash them with my kindness, and you can welcome me into this space and I can reteach you. I can repaint these walls. I can even knock down these walls and build better walls that are stronger, that are better. And I can get rid of the stink that is lingering in this room from what used to be in here. And you partnering with me in that, you are reinforcing and strengthening this righteous fruit now. So I was like, it was so foreign to me, because to be honest, I did not realize how much I searched for problems. I searched for a reason to be anxious. I would stir myself up to be anxious. So for someone to tell me that, you know what, just because when something is not going the way that you planned, or when something undesirable happens, do you know that you actually don't have to panic? And, you know, I knew this throughout my walk with God. I knew the Holy Spirit would be whispering it to me, but my flesh would not allow me to accept that truth. I was like, no, I have to panic. I have to be angry. I have to be frustrated. I have to cry to prove that this and this and this is a problem, which is actually not the case. And I think so many of us are so bound to that way of operating. We're so bound to the flesh, thinking that, oh, I have to instigate this response. You know, a big example of that is, oh, no, I have to prove to this person, I have to be angry so that they know they can't mess with me. And it's like, who said that? Like, the word says vengeance is the Lord. But we, instead of actually just kind of pressing into the Holy Spirit and welcoming him into that place, into that room that was formerly filled with offense and anger and hostility and bitterness, we're like, no, let me stir myself up in anger and hostility and bitterness. We're letting the enemy just jump in there and have a party, instead of welcoming the Holy Spirit into that space and saying, you know what? I don't know everything, and you've been doing this a long time. So why don't you come in here and you redecorate the walls, right? I listened to a great word from Sarah Jakes Roberts. It's about insecurity, overcoming our insecurities. It is on YouTube. You should check it out. This boy, are we just doing backflips or what's going on? But she's pretty much addressing like a similar concept, and it's so good. I kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, she's talking about God, instead of demolishing everything, instead of demolishing the whole house, you know, it's probably, why not think about redecorating? Why not let the Holy Spirit renovate the house to make it even better than it was before? So yeah, that's my little encouragement today. It's like, invite the Holy Spirit into that space, and don't feel like you have to fill that empty space. Let's say something has happened and you would formally partner with a response that is not conducive to like walking in what the Holy Spirit wants you to walk in. It's not a fruit of the Spirit. How you normally respond is not a fruit of the Spirit. I challenge you, instead of just kind of busting all out, letting the enemy have his terrain in you through that time, or through you in that time, I challenge you, as I challenge myself, as the Holy Spirit challenged me today, just sit with him. Welcome him into that room in your heart. You've invited him into your house, yeah, sure, in the main areas, but now welcome him into that room where your flesh is fighting to ignite a response from you, and a response that you've been doing for a long time. You've been reinforcing that connection. I challenge you to flip it and just welcome the Holy Spirit into that room and let him do what he needs to do. So, you know, I overcame that situation through the grace of God, and he filled me with his peace. He washed the walls with that peace, and I approached the situation with a completely different mentality than I would have in the past. And I am like literally living in the peace of God. I feel so much better. I feel so much more alive and put together and composed, whereas before I just felt kind of all over the place and unstable, and I'm like, why am I just feeling so crazy all the time? But when we allow the Holy Spirit to be the anchor of our home, he really is the anchor of our home. He will do it if we invite him in. So yeah, that's it for today. Until the next episode, peace.